What's
I had it here. This is not quite lo-fi, but it's our woke rap song. Here we go.
Yeah. Woke left is communist. They go to the core, spreading peace and love, but you can't ignore. Gonna reshape the world, make it all fair and square. No more private property, we're all gonna share. Call me PC, cause I'm politically correct. Using words like weapons, gotta show respect. Manipulate the language, control the narrative. Make you question everything, make you wanna live.
We'll know nothing and be happy, that's the goal. No more greed, no more power, taking back control. World peace, stop force, yeah, we'll make it right. In the name of justice, we'll shine a light. Redistributing wealth, leveling the playing field.
There's something to that. I'm just saying, because it's
you
like,
gotta stop it at the best point, huh?
Dude, it reminds me of that song from The Parent Trap that I'm pretty convinced, because there's all these examples that you can find going back to the past, where, especially like the 60s, where there's like, and 50s, where there's like like communist implications are like huge in like things that were really popular, and like that "Let's Get Together."
oh yeah,
We could have all the lyrics of "Let's Come Together," or at least a lot of them, just scream of communism to me.
oh
Like, 'cause
god,
this is
not
like
just communism. Let's Get Together is deeper than that. Actually, I don't know if you know this. You do, right? Like, so when you think of the Parent Trap,
Yeah.
it's not about the parents, it's about our political leaders. Parent Trap is very clearly about the triplet, like, royals, the royal, including Meghan Merkel and the three women, and the idea that you have the Soviet child, the American child, and the British child, but they're all from the same parents, really, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at the Soviet Union, Khrushchev coming to Disneyland, Khrushchev came to Disneyland and he got to walk around, and Disney was showing him like what Disneyland was like, and the Pioneers park and the amusement park in the Soviet Union is based on Disneyland. So this idea isn't just let's get our parents together, it's let's get the East and the West together, right? And see what happens when we combine the East and the
There's
West.
so much we could share. Let's get together
Pepsi.
right away. Yeah.
You know that
Well,
you know this,
yeah.
right, Green Rocks, that Pepsi is the first product sold in the Soviet Union.
I did not know that, actually.
So we were doing a deep dive on this recently, Pepsi in the Soviet Union, because I remember hearing this story about it and how in the 90s, like the Soviet Union sold their tankers to Pepsi because Pepsi was going through pirate waters and things like that. But I had missed part of this story. I had thought, okay, great. The Soviet Union is collapsing. Rockefeller's lead program is getting corporate social responsibility involved with companies. Frito-Lay has combined with PepsiCo, and they're the biggest company. This is easy. But apparently it goes back further. Apparently in 1959 in the United States, right? And this is interesting. 1959, the PepsiCo company is selling Pepsi to the Soviet Union. 1959. Up until 1959, like in January, like 58, like 1951, 49, 51 till 58, McCarthy trial period. People had all these laws. They were taking people that were socialist or even just union guys and arresting them and putting on camera. You weren't allowed to do business with socialist companies. There's an embargo going on in Cuba because of the mafia and gambling, right? All of a sudden, PepsiCo is making a deal with the Soviet Union, a capitalist trading deal, where they're trading like barrels instead of oil, barrels of syrup.
Getting into that, yeah, there's a ton of examples of capitalism from Russia throughout. I mean,
of course. I think that's kind of the idea, is that Russia is a state capitalist. The state is a capitalist.
Yeah, but it's weird because, like, I don't know, like I was watching that, like there's like a Tetris movie that's like it's super embellished, and it's funny, but it's like the history of Tetris in the Soviet Union.
With Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father in that movie.
Is he really? Is he in there?
Yeah, because the only reason Tetris was sold, because again, you've got this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. No, I remember now. Yeah.
Robert.
Because I actually, while I was watching, I was like, I even stopped to look that up. I was like, is he related? And yeah, sure enough.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's Glenn Maxwell's father, and he had socialist dealings with the Labor Party and had convinced the trading of Western encyclopedias for Eastern software. They weren't trying to do capitalist, make money off a thing. They're trying to get this out, each according to their needs. And so the idea of trading Pepsi for dollars didn't make sense. So instead, they're trading Pepsi for military tankers and for AK-47s. Pepsi got machine guns for the barrels of Pepsi. And the idea was to go through the Samoan Barren Strait, to go by Djibouti. You're going to have to go through an area where there are a lot of pirates. And that'll cut off a lot of cost for your corporation to bring your Pepsi across the seas. But to do that, you're going to need boats. And the Soviet Union, I thought, had given them boats. It's better. The Soviet Union made them special order boats for the Pepsi company. Crazy nuclear powered tankers, right? So they were.
So
like
what else was being smuggled in them is my question, because I doubt it was only Pepsi.
Here's the other great point. At that exact same time, because this is like into the 80s. We know in 1959 they started this, but by the late 80s into the early 90s, you have something called the Pepsi Challenge. The Pepsi Challenge is where they're selling jets. That's the whole point of the Pepsi Challenge. If you buy enough Pepsi, you can buy a jet for less than it costs.
Wasn't that later? I mean, the Pepsi Challenge happened, and then years later so there's a documentary on that, right?
And I was just going to bring that up. The plane was never like a real thing, and didn't they get sued for it?
So there's a person, an American citizen, who is not in the Freemasons, not in the Illuminati, not in the military. You
did a background check.
He's
right?
He's in none of the diagnostic checks to get access, and he's done the work. He got the money. He got all the Pepsi points. He should be able to get a jet.
Didn't he figure out a loophole? Isn't that what happened?
Right. Pepsi then shuts down the challenge. This is the same thing as Jerry and Marge Go Large. He's a guy who figured out the loophole. They're not going to give him a jet because they're in the process of using legally to smuggle jets. Right? Yeah. He's found out what they're doing, and they're not going to let him be in on the game. That's what it looks like to me. But Pepsi, with Rockefeller, smuggling jets outside of using the challenge as a cover, way more plausible than you'd think.
Interesting.
So basically a MrBeast challenge, but with jets.
Contemporary, tasteful.
I don't understand this whole thing about Bill was trying to explain it to me this morning, actually, but the MrBeast deal, I don't completely
Oh my god, I never felt more comfortable to talk about something before.
Yeah, I assume Andreas has watched far more content than I have on it, and I have watched a ridiculous amount of content.
You know what's funny? I'm gonna flatter you right back. I would say that No Green Rock Superman has a more level head than I could have after seeing less content than I could see after all of the content. That somehow you know what's up anyway.
I have a sense, but who knows? I'll call it my Andreas sense. There could be a conspiracy floating around there somewhere. You're on mute.
I do it on purpose, subconsciously. I'm like, this is not. You don't want to hear it. Let's do it in layers. Okay, so let's start with the everyman's perspective. David, you seem to think you have the least amount of information. What do you think's going on with MrBeast and Ava Chris Tyson, right?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't know enough. I haven't looked into it enough to have a strong opinion. Yeah.
That's exactly. But that's what reporters at CNN are probably going to have less opinion than you and talk about it. So I'm curious what you think's going on.
There are certain things about the story that you can't actually talk about on YouTube because YouTube is suppressing it. There are certain words you also have to be careful of. But this. Andreas, do you want to start off with the conspiracy or without the conspiracy?
Let's start. Okay, let me try to lay a fire line. So what I think is going on is this: you got a very, very important person, Jimmy Donaldson. He's 26 years old. He doesn't know everything. He's a kid, and yet he's been built up by a system of infrastructure that they can't control to the point where he has more followers than the nation of Canada or the United States or Mexico. He's at 300 million followers, and a lot of those are real people, right? And he's all over the world. So that's dangerous to the systems of control. Simultaneously, he's had a friend for 15 years or more who is a psychopath. And this person is traumatized, etc. There's all kinds of historical excuses for it. They've got a lot of issues that MrBeast couldn't possibly have fathomed as a teenager. It could barely maybe come. I think at 26 years old myself, I would have a lot of trouble finding out that my best friend was a psychopath. And
So the reason why, David, the reason why he's a psychopath is because there was a certain artist who drew certain underage kind of how do I say this? Pictures,
animated illustrations that are
Japanese
erotic.
style
Lolly.
animated
I think you could
pictures.
say. Can you say lolly, or is that a
A lollipop? Let's just
Yeah.
say lollipop for the sake of the algorithm.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
like sissy porn? Is that what we're talking about? What are we talking about?
It's not corn. I mean, it could be considered corn to some.
No, sissy porn.
We're supposed to say corn. Actually, we're learning from Green Rocks here. Corn is the new word. Corn is really addictive.
Oh, it's pornographic.
Pornographic
material.
Yeah,
okay.
pornographic material. But it's about infants, right? Is the idea, and
it's about younger people, and by that, people who are not past an age of consent.
right.
Now, basically, Ava, who was Chris at the time, it had a very edgy sense of humor, so he encouraged this kind of stuff. He had a Discord where it was mainly people under the age of 18 that he was pushing out different animated corn to share with them. Conversations got into a realm of conversations that adults should not be having with children. And basically all this stuff started to get leaked. Now,
And there's
the
also
reason-
there's the aspect also that this happened usually 5 or 6 or so years ago. So a lot of this stuff, he was 18 or 20, not 35, right? 18 or 20, and
he was
talking to-
clearly overage and they
True.
were not.
This is true, but there's also the aspect of it. The way it's being presented is a guy who's in his 30s is talking to a 10-year-old in a real room, right? That's compared to what's really happening, which is people in a chat room who can't see each other, and a guy who's 20 who's got a lot of therapy ahead of him. Let's be honest. He's not figured out what's going on in his life or her life. Okay. And then that is affecting these people who he doesn't know are 15, that could be 10, but he doesn't know that they're not 20 either. Like, you've been in a chat room with people and not known the age of the people in the chat room.
Dude, I've been on freaking Twitter and realized I was arguing with somebody who was like,
yeah, I
No,
mean,
that's not a defense. If you're in charge of a Discord and you're in charge of the thing and you've got
Right.
kids and you're doing a show for kids, that's not a defense, okay?
Right,
But like,
okay.
just to understand the circle.
Yeah, I don't know the full context here.
so I can send you a few videos of just the shortened version of it. But basically what happened is that these things started to get leaked. Now, originally, MrBeast stood up for his friend, like most people would do, and everything seemed to be hunky-dory. And then people started coming out saying, well, he was using his power he was using Jimmy's power and abusing that power. He got personal assistants who were doing things that personal assistants should not be doing.
Let's also point out that Chris Ava Tyson started to transition July 2023, a year ago to this month, and that it's only been a year.
Oh, that's what Bill was saying. Bill was drawing some kind of parallel. I don't know if he was saying that it was a full equivalency, but he was drawing a parallel between Bruce Jenner back when they were Bruce with the car thing where they ran
the
over
accident.
I don't remember even the full story there. I'm not,
They were drunk and they hit somebody.
I guess so. But I guess the transition following the accusations. So I think he was seeing that there was some, like, when you look, I guess the timing of this, I don't know.
Well, I mean, RGZ Mac, I'm not, I can't bring up chat, but one of your chatters say, let's point out the transition was because he thought it would stop him from getting in trouble. I'm not really sure about that, just because I can't.
It's speculative.
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny that. I can really only get into the topic of this all happened after the Dr. Disrespect stuff.
True.
So if you ask me, it does seem like there's a little battle going on between the things that happen with Dr. Disrespect and then this, but this has completely overshadowed anything with Dr.
because
Disrespect.
MrBeast has 300 million subscribers. It's like all of this is happening at a very specific time in order to take him down a notch and make sure that he, like Adam said, I think, supports the right candidate, which is so crazy to think about. But he's a 26-year-old kid. He's now old enough that they demand that his audience are following the right things. Granted, there's a lot of other things here, because there's the video that came out simultaneously about how his YouTube channel isn't a legitimate game show. Shocking! Oh my god!
Yeah, there is an out. There is a gentleman who said he used to work for MrBeast
for like a week. By the way, yeah, he didn't work very long.
Went through a bunch of videos and dissected them, because MrBeast on a lot of interviews says he's never used CGI, he's never faked.
No, results. he says he never faked the video.
He never faked the video.
And then the guy shows that they use CGI to make the
faking a video and using CGI is
those are different, bro.
Yeah,
in other words, Superman, you fake your videos all the time, and I can't trust you.
I wish I'd be rich
because I've seen Dwayne Johnson literally in your videos. I can't trust you anymore.
Well, no, in that case, it would be stealing.
Like, what the hell?
The memes I make are all theft. I make no original.
If you put a CGI of a car going into a meat grinder as the intro for your YouTube video, I mean, apparently I can't trust you anymore. That's all it is.
Is this formulaic? This thing that you're describing? Like,
MrBeast does have a formula to his videos, because he's been studying.
I don't mean his videos. I mean this controversy.
The takedown. Yeah, the pylon.
The takedown.
It's one thing after another. It seems like every day or two another thing drops,
and they're high production values. Like, they look like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
At the end of the day, you can say what you want about MrBeast. Sure, were his jokes in bad taste? Yes. Were they jokes I would personally make? Definitely not.
Wait, but when you were 16, because some of these jokes, he's 16, 18 years old. And I might have at 18 said some of the things.
I'd get edgy, but I would never go past certain lines.
I'll be frank. If like someone said to me,
but that's just me. It's
if someone said to me like, "Oh, dude, Superman, who like if he wasn't afraid of green rocks, his Rick is really small. It's really small and flaccid, and tiny."
I'm Jewish. What do you want from me, man?
I would post in my Discord, "No, his Rick is super huge and throbbing, and I've seen it, and I love his Rick." I would do that because I'm not afraid of my own sexuality, because I know women, and B, because I'm immature. So the point is that if MrBeast made that joke that he saw his friend's wiener and it wasn't tiny, that's super not. This is what Tim posted as like, "Oh man,
listen,
take him down." And
I know many people have different opinions of Tim Pool. A lot of times, because I've seen Michael Malice and the way Tim started tweeting after
Tim's best editor quit and works for guess who?
No idea.
MrBeast.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It makes a lot more sense why he's posting crap like that, though.
I mean, it would make sense, but I mean, Tim's takes aren't my favorite because he does a lot of them for engagement, and sure. I'm like, dude, just people like you for be genuine. If people want to just keep making fun of you, let them.
He's reached that level where I mean, I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works for him in terms of like it's just the more
Tim Pool
people watch.
Trending on Twitter. That's how.
Well, yeah, does it matter? I think so. Like the Ben Shapiro's of this world, it just really doesn't. It doesn't matter like what it's just that it's sensational enough that people are gonna click, right? Is it?
I agree with you. A lot of these streamers, they know that the topics that they bring up or the way they say something is going to bring in the traction and therefore bring more attention to it. I personally, that's not something I do because I feel like it's manipulative of your fans because, at the end of the day, you're nothing without the people who support you, and to manipulate them is really, it's like something I very, very, very much don't agree with. And that's why I'm not somebody who's like, yeah, drop a super chat and I'll answer your super chat, but it only can be $50 or more, otherwise I won't read it. And a lot of people in the community heard about that rule of the $50 if we won't read it. So they've decided that they're going to read all of it, or they're going to make a separate show specifically for super chats.
God, I sometimes wish though. I kind of wish so I'm really lucky, because I did engineering. I went to school. I've made some films. My parents. I'm lucky. I don't need to rip people off. And I sometimes wonder, because I watch these YouTubers, I've seen other people do it too, where I'm like, holy crap, like, look at this Kickstarter scam. Like, I could do this. I never thought of this, but if I had wanted to, I could do this. And it just blows my mind, like, how easy it would be.
You're like Randy Marsh with OnlyFans.
Because there's so many people out there that think that this is how it works, that it's all about it's sycophancy that these YouTubers, and this is the thing, like all these kids are also worried about these kids because those kids are sycophants and they're going to end up trying to buy a t-shirt so they can be with MrBeast. I know kids, you know what I mean? I'm not like Michael Jackson, but like I know Britney's kids. Like they love MrBeast because of all the people on the internet that are like going around to Japanese graveyards and disrespecting people, that there's a guy out there who's curing blindness. And so I just find it like, of all the things that you could be upset at a 26-year-old immature kid who doesn't know very much about.
Building wells in Africa, building homes I can't believe him. He's such a white savior.
I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm for it. I'm 100%.
Oh, dude, I'm
MrBeast
down.
Dude.
That was like the main argument I had against,
the worst thing about him is that before presented all the evidence, he tried to protect his friend. How dare he? How dare he stand up for his friend that he doesn't know better about?
Listen, I can understand that, but also from what I've heard about the goings on in the backgrounds of MrBeast and everything like that, I know Chris was Ava was not on good terms with people, and they've been trying to get her out. But
I've seen that too. From all the videos I've seen that too. The idea that Chris would have done everything they could to destroy MrBeast before this point, and gotten everyone to say MrBeast is the groomer, not them. That they're destroying the transgender rights. That they hate transgender. They're bad. They're some Christian fascist. Right? Yeah, I saw that. I saw that for the last 2 years.
This is one of those things where any one scenario, a lot of people react as though they're representative of all of this, group of people.
So
isn't that what
relationships? Absolutely, a lot.
Wasn't this when the news of Kevin Spacey from a 30-year incident broke? Was that his apology? People had a really strong reaction in the LGBTQ plus XRQ24Z that because he came out when he was being accused of being far too forward, I guess is how it was. There's apparently, from my understanding, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess the main incident that we're talking about was him at a party with there was a 17-year-old boy, I believe he was 17, and he picked him up.
I heard that.
Did a wrestling type move where he spun him around, tossed him on the bed, pinned him. This is a room full of people too, from what I understand. So it's not, and then held him for a bit too long. The 17-year-old felt like it was sexual in nature what he was doing. He got a sense of that. That's how he felt. And so, but looking at
I have a friend, Ian and I both have a mutual friend who was sexually accosted by Kevin Spacey.
Okay, tell me about that.
We got to be careful though, because
I don't know if I can tell you.
There are a lot of people that have had these things happen that they don't want the information.
Well, this is the question. This is the question. When I'm listening, when I'm listening to, first of all, I just want to say to his apology letter. That he says, I don't remember it. And it's 30 years ago at a party, something that apparently was like about 30-second incident. So, he doesn't remember it. But if this was your experience and you've been dealing with this all these years, I apologize. If this is something that happened, despite my not remembering it, then that's real. That's real. You know, I can't. But he also came out, and people had this reaction that we don't want to be affiliated with
Oh my
this kind
God.
of behavior.
I,
And
I
to
I think
me,
trans are
to
doing the
me, I
same thing.
thought
Yeah.
that transparency is what people were kind of demanding, because they were
Did you
like,
watch? Are you
they're-
guys? How gay
yeah.
are you? Did you watch Bjorn Anderson's documentary? Do you know about the prettiest boy in the world? I don't know if I'm the only one, and I'm sorry if I am. The Most Beautiful Boy in the World is an amazing 2021 Swedish documentary film about Bjorn Andersson and the effects of fame thrust upon him when he appeared in Luciano Visconti's 1971 film *The Death in Venice*. Death in Venice. He
Oh,
was
I know Death
just
in Venice. Yeah.
he was just 16 when he came out. Yeah, is that pretty boy? He's like the
Yeah,
prettiest boy.
Visconti's amazing. His version of well, I don't know if there's another version of The Stranger, but Camus' The Stranger, that's really good.
Well, you want to talk about like weird homoeroticism and pediatry or whatever. Like this, he went around the world trying to find the prettiest boy he could, and this kid is the prettiest boy, and he's really uncomfortable about what they did about this film. He's really uncomfortable that he was in this film now that he's like a 70-year-old man. You know,
Right.
a movie about like pedophilia, essentially, right?
But
PDF file, YouTube PDF file.
Who was the guy?
I gotta keep.
They just there's a recent documentary about the guy who started the boy bands, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. What was that guy's name?
Oh
You know what I'm talking about?
I love him so much too. NSYNC creator. What's his name? I just was talking. Oh, my brain.
The big guy with the glasses.
Poppy.
Always
Poppy.
with the glasses.
You know, Daddy Poppy. What's his name?
They called him Big Papa.
Yeah, Big Papa. Oh man, my internet's like screwed up. Somebody do it for me. Anybody in the chat who can remember? It's like Paulson or Jim.
That's close.
NSYNC creator. It's like Jim Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. No.
But listen, anybody who's even remotely interested in the
Lou Pearlman.
Lou Pearlman.
You got to remember because of Hellboy Pearlman. That's how I remember now.
Okay.
Go watch Oompaville's video. Who he just put out one about an hour and a half ago, almost 2 hours ago, on the current information from everything going down with MrBeast and Ava Tyson. So if that's something,
let me put the link up. Which video?
Oompaville's newest video.
Oompaville. Okay.
I understand Oompaville may not be for everybody, but I find his takes definitely palpable. Left or right, he's kind of like in the middle. He doesn't really care. This is Oompaville. Go check him out. I love his stuff because he gets into very deep detail about everything, brings up receipts. His editor, shout out
with
to
a
you,
mustache like that. I mean, God, I love it.
He's really funny. He's big within the GunTube community. Probably hangs around a lot of the same guys you know. Did a podcast called Some Ordinary Podcast with Mudahar. And they've all been covering it. So yeah, RGZ, I'm really glad you like him. He seems like a really cool dude. And he's very, very middle of the road too. It's not too far left, not too far right. He'll call out bullshit where he sees it. It's pretty good. But for the informational videos, he spends a lot of time actually going. I'm not sure if he does the research, but you know, he has all the receipts ready to go. And sometimes his videos can last 20 minutes to like an hour and a half. So dealer's choice for that.
Yeah, I've seen him go into some pretty important things as well. I also been watching, Asmongold. Obviously, Asmongold's been
Asmon's good, even though I don't agree 100% with his takes. I do find them very logical. Sometimes a bit too logical, just because he's coming from more of a logical perspective and not like a perspective.
I appreciate hearing you say that. Because you know what I mean? Because I think of you as a logical person. So the fact that you see through some of his rhetoric, and don't get me wrong, like I love Zach and I love what he's saying, but a lot of what I've noticed in the mainstream look at things is that people don't want to go deep into the actual consequences of these things, And so now they're like, okay, we're allowed to talk about it because people are, I don't know, the rhymes with broomers.
Well, so for the thing with like these people, I enjoy them because it gives me, I am in the fellowship. I'm part of the fellowship. So we have a lot of people doing videos on like different topics and everything like that. So I like to kind of leave my own echo chamber every now and then and go see, what topics people are covering, how they're edited, and you know, get more information on these people. Sure, are they perfect? No. Do I agree with everything? No. But you're going to be hard pressed for you to find anybody I agree 100% with anything on. Do I purposely go out there and try and cause problems publicly? No. I will reach out to the creator and be like, "Hey man, listen, what you said I completely disagree with," or, you know, I want to know your, like, with the Olympics thing that, you know, that happened with the opening. I am not a Christian myself. So what did I do? I went to Christians I know who I mutually respect, and I had a conversation with them about it because it was private, and there's no like there's no outside influence
I
in that
just feel
way.
like it's
Two
so
friends.
backwards though, because like it should be the opposite. It should have been every year before this, like Greek people being like, dude, there wasn't enough homoeroticism in Greek oil. I didn't see any lubricated naked wrestling. This is not culturally accurate. Like the idea that the Olympics is supposed to be some sort of Christian nativity set is more disgusting to me than the idea of a Dionysian Mithra cult having like
isn't
a
it,
blood sacrifice and like a
isn't
bunch
this
of
a
trans people.
tradition? Like, doesn't this go back really far? Where there's
Yeah,
always
oh yeah,
like,
it does. It goes back to Zeus
no,
raping
no.
Ganymede as a baby
No, I mean,
boy, and then it goes
Andreas,
back to
great.
naked
I mean,
wrestling.
specifically the opening ceremony for the Olympics to have kind of like a cult, you know, like it's kind of
Oh yeah,
like,
always.
I mean, all of these undertones are always there.
100%.
I
Because
thought
it's
it
a
was
cult.
particularly funny. Like, I laughed out loud a lot. Like, and I'm not used to laughing out loud on most things on television these days. Maybe it's because I'm jaded. But I thought it was pretty funny. Like, I like the Little Prince part with their Statue of Liberty. You know, like
Yeah.
their that whole sequence was really interesting. But then the whole time I'm just like, I thought these were usually like in a coliseum, right? Like there's an arena or whatever, and all these people are there gathered to watch the thing at once, and this is like spread out through Paris, right?
I don't
It's
think
like,
people are
Yeah, that's what
ready.
I'm
I don't
saying.
think people aren't ready for the fact that the Eucharist ritual, like Christ wasn't saying you should like be a cannibal and eat him, you know?
no,
And so the idea that the Pauline Arcanian Eucharist is cannibalism and blood sacrifice, and that the Middle Age churches are all built out of the bones and skeletons of
Sure.
the sacrificed Christians to make this, that this is what they're saying. Whereas Dionysian Bacchus occult was to eat the flesh and drink the blood of Bacchus. So what you have is you have the very clear and indicative origin point for where Christianity was bastardized, turned into a pagan satanic culture. I mean, because you have this idea of Christianity, which is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. The idea of a rabbi who's kind of got some qualms with Deuteronomic religion and thinks that there's a way to do Judaism different. Zavai, you know, cool. All right. But instead, what we're saying is, no, we murder this Che Guevara. You wear his T-shirt. Now you buy it from us. You know, and that's what's really
well. I guess
scary to me.
where I was going with that is just that, has there been a time where in order for somebody to experience the opening ceremony, you're only going to get the full thing from television, or at least you're going to get something that was on television put on the internet?
mean,
like
before the days of
watching that
social
opening
media.
ceremony, all the people who are there on the location, like that, I don't, as far as I know, that's never happened before, where it's like they're all getting little fragments of the opening ceremony. I mean, yeah, they had the ships go below with everybody on them, you know, all the teams. It's kind of a trip. Like, I was looking at it, and they had Jordan and Palestine with their own ships, and then they had Israel. They have Iraq, they have Iran. But the thing that when it gets to Russia, they say Russia is banned, and I was like, were they banned because of Ukraine? Like, Ukraine is there. It looks like a bunch of Zelenskys. Like, the whole ship was like filled with Zelenskys, and then like they're all, you know, they're having a good time, whatever. That's good for them, you know.
From what I
But
know,
like,
we
but
got
hold
last
on.
time.
So I posed this to somebody yesterday or day before yesterday, and they said that the reason was because Russians had been caught cheating multiple times.
Yeah, they were doping last time.
And so, and I guess in multiple ways. So
did you see the doc? Because the idea that anybody isn't doping is nonsense, right?
It's preposterous. To be honest with you, I think everybody should be able to dope up as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see an Incredible Hulk freaking shatter the disc throwing record I
Yeah.
want, you know what? I want one normal Olympics and one just roided out Olympics and see where it goes.
Yeah, and I feel like where it goes is like the lesbian organic Olympics, and then like the actual Olympics, because the Olympics were always about drinking elixirs of the gods in order to get to the top
Right,
of
but
Mount Olympus.
it was
right?
drugs. And what
It
are we
was
talking
drugs.
about?
That's what the
No, but this
Olympics
is
was.
interesting. This is interesting.
Elixirs.
Let's follow this, because you have Bacchus, who represents drunkenness, intoxication, and all
And
this,
cannibals.
and Dionysus.
Adrenochrome. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, but that's only one
Sure.
particular sect,
Andreas takes us
era,
to the
period.
ancient,
Like
and
that's
he's trying to
all
bring it
right.
into modern day.
I'll
That's not-
slow
yeah,
it down.
that-
I'll slow it down. My bad.
right. I mean, just that doesn't make the rule for Bacchus or Dionysus.
I would disagree, and I'm sorry because I didn't want to interject. But the idea that the Bacchus ritual isn't about cannibalism, the Bacchus ritual is where we get the Eucharist. The idea that this is my blood, this is my body, that comes from the Dionysians.
Sure.
Mithra,
But
Mithra.
it's symbolic up to a point. And
I
then
don't know. Is it? Because it seems like during the Saturnalia they ate people, so it seems like there really is some actual cannibalism. That
Yeah, I
led
think
to
we're
the
talking
Archonic
we're talking
ritual.
about quite a time period, isn't that? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that like with the Aztecs, if you're talking about sacrifice, it's like this isn't something that occurred through their entire. There's like things that emerged at the end or
did
something.
Dionysians eat people?
Yeah.
Your
ChatGPT.
Twitter, your
that's a good
Google
question,
algorithm is probably you're probably on
yeah.
a watch list, dude.
Google
Right.
is very good. Yeah, I'm
Right,
on,
but I
there's
just
no
wanna-
such thing as
I-
a watch list. It's a watch index, and I've got a lot of asterisks.
I think
I
I'm
did-
gonna watch Twitch star already because I had to look up gay Greek wrestling earlier on today.
Dude, I had a girlfriend in the past whose father was crazy about Lance Armstrong, and he was a cyclist and owned a big chain of bicycle shops in Seattle, and he had this like cutout of Lance Armstrong in like this exercise room or whatever, and I was like, wow, he's like a mega fan. And then I was visiting, I saw that, and then when Lance Armstrong got in trouble for doping, when I showed up the next time, he had removed the cutout, and so I brought it up. I was like, "What happened to your Lance Armstrong thing?" And he was like, "That guy's terrible, basically, like unforgivable." Like
he left his wife for Shania Twain. That's how
and I was
left
like,
it.
and I said to him, I was like, but he did do what he did. Like that doesn't negate like what it's not like if I was to take that I could do what he did.
I agree.
It's like,
That's when I
crazy.
started caring too. Before that moment when everyone was wearing those stupid wristbands, I was like, you're all chumps. But when I found out that he was doping and that they all like hated him, I was like, no, calm down, hold on.
So
Maybe
the question becomes, there's a saying that I was told when I was younger: a thief is not a thief till he gets caught.
Wow, is that from the Brengi Rules of Acquisition? That's pretty good.
You don't want to know who it's from. Trust me, you don't want to know who it's from.
Forget I asked.
But so the question is, was he a cheater before he was caught cheating?
Well, yeah, because Sheryl Crow. Sorry, that was a good joke though, right? Come on. I feel like that's why he got in trouble. Once he left his wife for Sheryl Crow, they're like, what do we have on him? What do we got? That's all it was. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it's a tree who falls in the woods. We don't care that he's a cheater.
I think it's just a trip that we're over here like talking about like it looked like a puberty blockers advertisement a little bit, and like it's just strange to me that we're like Russia can't be there because drugs are cheating, and then we have a celebration that ends up celebrating drugs of Dionysus and all these other, like this is all pharmaceutical related. Like whether you're talking about COVID or you're talking about trans issues or whatever, it ties directly into big pharma profiting big time, and like apparently some modern form of eugenics, considering we are sterilizing youth. And like even if it wasn't youth, it's still like, and there's a qualitative difference between people that are old enough to go to war and vote, making decisions about their own bodies. So I think that this is a point of contention when it comes to those issues. But it's also, like I had no problem watching that ceremony. Like I didn't feel offended in any way. Maybe like I say, maybe I'm jaded,
I felt virtue signal offended. I felt offended on the behalf of people I know who are religious and would look at it in the way of a religious perspective. I was like, bro, this is not okay.
It's France too, and like the Marie Antoinette part where she's actually in the cell where Marie Antoinette was held, and she's like singing to like heavy metal or whatever. Hilarious. I laughed out loud. Like that's what I'm like. And as far as like entertainment goes, like I was like, are we not entertained? You know,
Well, I
I don't
mean,
know.
it is France, so you have to kind of give them a tiny bit of leeway because they're very. France has
Right.
always been known to be more sexually liberated than most places.
Right. You know what? I have like core issues that actually like if we talk about like things that I care about, like things I could be offended about, whatever. Like I'm a single issue voter. So like it's all for me, I've discovered it's all about corporate capture. Like that's my single issue. If somebody has nothing to like say or any real plan to do anything about the capturing of government agencies, like the way that they'll go, like people will work for a corporation and then get moved to regulating that very corporation, like here to there. Like this kind of like I don't think it started, but like first time I became aware of something like this was like when Obama appointed the president of the New York branch of the Federal Reserve to be as Secretary of Treasury. And if you look at the dates, like it's like the day that he leaves the one is the day that he goes to the other. And this kind of like rotation thing that they do, that to me, like there's all sorts of expressions of it. But what is fueling the war machine? Like if you're really anti-war, how can you think that anything's ever going to happen without going directly after that corporate capture and doing something to shift that? And so anybody who comes with you know, who even wants to speak to it, if they don't communicate a plan to attack that directly, I don't care. Like I'm just like that's the difference between reform and an actual transformation, you know. So I don't know, if I look at something like the Olympics, I'm like, well, I love it. I love the diplomacy aspect of it. I hate the corporate aspect of it. So it's like, but the way that just people like, just like with trade, it's like people coming together to, you know, like, okay, so Russia did this thing, so we banned them. Shouldn't we just check more, like, to make sure before people get in there that you know, like, I don't know. Seems like
I
that
mean,
How are you
should be
gonna check? What are you gonna check?
yeah, it was France's deal to do the Olympics, so it's up to them. They don't really need to go over anybody's head.
I thought it was great.
Before the chat disappears, can you go up to that hot take? Because I
Sure, where
don't
do I
want to
go?
call you mytho class.
What
Probably
was the
Mythic
hot take?
Glass. Let me see.
Yeah.
How far up is it? Is it pretty far? What time?
No,
what's the
it's
timestamp?
at 8:12.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So-
well, that would be 9:12 for me. Okay, sorry.
So I'm
Mythic Glass right here. My hot
I
take.
wanted to bring this up not because I'm calling you out or anything, but because I've seen this argument and I've actually had this argument myself. He says, or they say, or whatever. My hot take: the people who are most disgusted are the noise that makes the most noise.
The
noises that
make
make
the
the
most
most
noise.
noise.
Yeah.
Therefore drawing the most attention to it. I say stop talking about it and giving it the publicity it wants. Now, that is a very good point, and I have made that argument myself in the past.
Yeah, like Hawk Girl, some trauma. Sure, there's situations where it doesn't
Like,
affect anybody. You
I
wanna just make it go away.
understand that perspective very, very well, but you have to remember, in order to bring attention to it and let people know, like, this kind of stuff is not okay, you have to talk about it. Because there are people who did not watch the beginning of the Olympics and have no idea what was going on, who will now go watch it and see exactly what's happening and therefore end up in kind of your camp because they're like, yeah, I don't like this. So
I think you guys are overreacting. Let's see how tasteful the Olympics.
careful,
ceremony-
just be very careful because the Olympics is super, super anal about copyright.
I'm sure they are. Okay, well, none of this even seems like the nudie stuff that we were worried about anyway. I don't know. Where is this? It is this the one? Oh, there we go. Here, look.
That's
at
right, Space Coyote.
So-
I run the music industry. I run Hollywood. I'm controlling all of it. So
Yeah,
there you have your confirmed.
What you don't realize is that APM Records is actually more important than any of it. Did you guys know? We'll go back to that. Here's the deal: you had a Smurf who was wearing a cute little fern, bunch of drag queens and transvestites and transgender people. But I feel like there's a difference, right? Because a transvestite is cool, and a transgender person isn't allowed to read to kindergartners. You know, there's a difference there. But yeah, that's basically. Then a lot of people were upset because they all stood on the same side of a table like this. I think what they're missing is that the Last Supper painting is a satanic inversion of a pagan art form.
That's
mean,
what I was
you can-
thinking, dude. Totally, that was
Listen,
one of my first thoughts. I was like, we're talking about a Da Vinci painting. Like people are treating it like we're talking about like
Listen,
some like the gospel itself or
Wow.
something. I'm
Right,
like, yeah, dude.
you
Like,
could say that.
You want to
but
see
it's
his other
still-
work?
yes, yeah. Have you seen him draw? Like he's drawing like pregnant women as Jesus.
You remember it was 2012 where they did the William Blake thing of England, of the New Jerusalem, of England's green and pleasant land, and then they had those symbols that you arrange them and it forms the letter Zion.
Like-
It forms Zion.
I don't
Remember
want
that?
to say it, but it's as easy as typing trans Jesus Da Vinci to get a bunch of trans Jesus Da Vinci paintings, and he's got
Yeah.
like a number of them. Basically,
Listen,
every-
I will fully admit I'm not Christian, so like I don't dig super deeply into the background of a lot of these things, but I do know from an outside perspective when you see the Last Supper,
it goes Christianity, Olympics, gay, military in terms of gay.
Wait a minute.
Gay.
I have a question. Is this a rumor or is this true that Da Vinci used to have to use male cadavers for his anatomy? And when he'd do women, like it would be a woman,
I
but she'd
think
be
it was-
extra muscular in his drawing,
yeah,
but because he
Da
could only
Vinci,
use
I think
men,
it was.
he couldn't
'Cause
use
he was the
women.
one to like outline the veins and everything like that. So I think he actually had to physically work with cadavers in order to get the hyper detailed art that he was able to do.
Yeah, I think the weird thing is that we're talking about France. And like this is not the like US audiences, like American audiences don't have the same experience. Like they're watching something else. It's like if
No,
I
like,
watch
we, like
it's
burn
like,
people at the stake and hang
no, for real. If
people,
I watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like I went to go see that in the theater. I sang along with the song Never Say Never to Always and weirded the people around me out. But anyway, like I'm walking out of the theater and I hear these young people go, "What was that movie even about?" And I realized that I had a completely different experience because all the information connected to what it's about. I feel like the Olympics opening ceremony was kind of similar. Like, how many Americans know the Little Prince connection and what was that whole sequence? Like, they're
and that's
reacting
what
like
I'm
this is just
saying,
randomness, and it wasn't random. It was all very specific symbolism. And I mean, I don't know. It was just kind of a romp riot that felt so French. Like, it felt like this is what of course, this is what France would do. France is freaking weird as shit, dude. Like, whatever. I don't even.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, the Little Prince is weird. I mean, there's probably
So
we could probably think about that too. But yeah.
that's kind of where my opinion falls. Is you have to remember, like Andreas, David, you guys know the backgrounds of a lot of this stuff, but the layman, when they see the Last Supper, what do they see? They
They're
see
closest to,
Jesus,
like,
they see
Jesus.
the art, and they see the history behind it. So you guys may know it from a super in-depth level, but the average person doesn't know that. So even if it wasn't, let's say it wasn't the Last Summer or the Last Supper, excuse me, the Passover meal, but let's say it was something.
It was the mid supper.
Exactly. But let's say it was something completely different. The similarities are too much for it to be ignored by the people who are religious, who would view it in the perspective of seeing the art, saying like, "Oh, that's the Last Supper."
Okay, well then good. That makes it art because I didn't think it was art until you said that. So like, because
I mean, did it move
isn't
you?
that kind of the function of art is to make people to think? You know.
Well,
like I mean,
what's his name? Shia LaBeouf. There was a question that he was asked, like, "What makes art?" And basically, he said anything that moves you.
Well, talk about Bacchus.
But like you look at it, right? A lot of these ancient people who you would make these pictures, you and I can look at the book and see something completely different than what they saw, but still be moved by it. So I think it's still.
Oh yeah. What do you think of when you see this picture? Sex. What about this one? Sex. Oh, I know your problem. You're obsessed with sex. Well, you're the one showing me all the dirty pictures.
It's the Rorschach test, man. What do you want?
I don't know.
So like I think it's good to have these conversations because you get different perspectives, right? A lot
Right.
of you here like Andreas and David's perspectives because they know the history behind a lot of these things that you
Dude.
wouldn't get otherwise.
Okay. As far as the pride thing goes, like here's a trip. Like, look at the timing. Oh, what
Andreas,
are you
you're
gonna
on
say?
mute, mate.
You're on mute.
I just want to say I really resonate with what Superman just said, though. There's something about inside jokes. There's something about inside joke culture. Okay, keep going.
Michael Obama. That's a great inside joke.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. Where was I going with that? What was I just saying? What were question of Stumping Stoner? What were we just talking about? Sorry.
Oh,
We were talking about art and anything that is art. Hey, oh, you got me excited. I thought Extra Zero was on. I was about to say, hail.
I am on.
I thought it was Sam the
Hey,
Newsman.
you motherfucker! Hail, my dude. This dude's a G. I love him.
I told him, I said, like, hey, come in here and make fun of Superman for a second.
I don't know why I'm in my basement, so I don't know why I'm just on my phone. I don't know why my camera.
Sorry, man. I forgot the keys. You'll be in there for a while.
Sorry. Wait, but no, he'll be back.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, look at the timing, look at the dates of when the pride flag was introduced by Harvey Milk in relationship to the Rainbow Family of Love and Light, whose symbol was the rainbow, and the connection of the Rainbow Family of Love and Light to San Francisco. Keep in mind that in 2002, the Rainbow Family of Love and Light was number 7 on George Bush's terrorist list. A friend of mine had told me this. I didn't believe them, and then another friend came back from Europe, and it was in the newspaper that the Rainbow Family was on the terrorist list. But the thing is that if you look at that flag, what it originally represented, especially for the Rainbow Family of Love and Light, and even for Harvey Milk, was inclusivity. And inclusivity meant inclusivity. As soon as you started being like, these are this color people and these are these color people, like when you started adding that triangle and you're like, and these people too, they're included too. We need to include these people. As soon as you did that, the meaning of the symbol of the rainbow flag changed completely, because it went from being an inclusive symbol, like, to an exclusivity. This is our people. This is our people's flag. I think God hates flags. Like, I'm just like, I look at it like
you enunciated that word.
God does hate flags.
No, and I think God loves, I can't say the word, even though I feel like if I was just in person, like, it would be absolutely fine to say in this context, because I think he likes them. I think the LGB movement had reached a point where we were just at the place as a society where we were really being accepting, and that we do this thing where we push things further and further and further, then it reaches a certain absurdity, and then it's like, wait, what is it that we're being tolerant of exactly? Like, this is the thing.
I believe in Spinoza's God who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of the world, and not in a God that reveals himself in the fate and the doings of mankind, in a sense, more and more, right? So I like the idea. I just want to say I like the idea of. I think that it's really ironic I like the idea of God liking gays, because I think it's really ironic that God would hate gays. If God's creating this universe and there's a bunch of people out there, he's like, hey, you're not living the way I want, but I made you, and I've been working on it. I'm going to fix it next generation, but you're going to just have to live a lifetime not the way I wanted you to live, based on the way I made you. Then there's something kind of wrong to that process. So clearly there's something more to what God is making that's more ambiguous.
Well, it's not a sin to be gay. It's a sin to act on being gay.
Yeah, like even that, I think that's a mistranslation. So that verse that says you shouldn't lie with another man the way you lie with another woman.
That's about incest.
I think it's not. The way I read
it is, dude.
I've seen you shouldn't tell
at
Jeff that he looks good in those jeans the way that you would tell Jennifer she looked good in those jeans. Like, if I would lie with a woman.
I am not speaking to a woman that way.
I would lie.
Fear of cancellation.
I would lie with a woman and tell her she looks good in jeans. I would not lie with my friend Kevin. I would tell him, bro, you don't look good in those jeans. You look fat in those jeans. You shouldn't go out in those jeans.
So Andreas confirms he wants you to take off your jeans when you see him next.
Don't lie with him. Don't lie with your bro the way you might lie with a woman you're trying to sleep
right.
with.
So just so you know, that verse, if you go into the Hebrew of that verse, it's totally about incest. It's saying don't do incest. I
There's
could
a lot of-
I could find you like scholarly rabbinic papers describing exactly why
Oh,
that's
see,
so.
and this is the
I'm
problem,
interested.
right?
Rabbinic.
I can
interested.
say
Rabbinic.
I can find rabbis saying this or that, but I can also find other rabbis saying different things. So remember,
This is
guys,
true. I can find a lot of rabbis
I'm
saying
not talking
a lot
about
of things.
I'm not talking about a peer-reviewed paper here. I'm talking about like a scholarly
Zohar?
explanation for it that's pretty solid. Because the
So,
word only shows up in like one other place in the Tanakh, and it's in regards to incest specifically.
I don't
See,
mean to
one
put
of the
you on the
things
spot,
I
but if you
know-
have that, I'm interested.
one of the things I know for sure is that I know absolutely nothing. So when it comes to the way people practice, the way people do things, the translations of it, I think you guys should go out there, find a scholar you trust, somebody who's not sketch as hell, go and learn and continue learning, because you can get the information from me, but the information from me is not going to matter unless you actively go out and receive that information yourself.
Well, all right. So not taking it as objective fact, but like considering the fact that David, you have studied from a rabbi.
So just so you know, like the context of where I'm coming from, I'm talking about a verse that I saw an explanation written out on, and I brought that text to my rabbi. We opened up the book, we went through the Hebrew dictionary, we looked at the words and broke the whole thing apart. And there's so many examples of that when you're studying the Torah, you're studying the Tanakh, and you go into the Hebrew, and you'll see that you have like sometimes 20 to 30 words that a word could possibly mean. And
they're about to break down ancient Hebrew. Are you ready for this? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I
right.
kind of an interesting point, didn't I?
No, I just have to point out Extra Zero's badass freaking collection behind him.
Oh my god, I know. I thought I saw.
I didn't know you were live. Andreas is like, "Hey, come on and make fun of Superman." So I was like, "Okay, I'll pop one." So I was just
this is wild, bro. I don't know if I'm seeing Gundam because it's kind of low res right now, but I think I saw Tekkaman. Do you have everything going on that I see you do?
These are basically all
Transformers in there. The dinosaur Transformers.
Oh my
One
god!
of the first times
This
I
is
watched
god
Extra
tier,
Zero,
bro.
So
one of the first times I watched him, he spent an hour and a half
Weird.
showing off everything.
Michael Bay shit.
Oh my god, bro! This is god tier.
I've got the hazmat.
Wait! Turn around! I saw a bar.
Oh yeah, no, I have a bar and I have an arcade.
Bro.
You son of a bitch, dude. That is awesome.
Dude, are you Mormon or something?
The
'Cause, like,
lifestyles of the nerds.
I'm formerly Catholic, if that's.
Oh, bro, sweet. Yeah, Jesuit, born and raised. What are you gonna do? They can't drill it out like mercury in your teeth. That's beautiful. I love this whole place. We're gonna have to do a deep dive into your whole psyche at some point. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about, because if you're if you were raised Catholic, then what do you have any like religious or spiritual opinions on this? You know, or in general?
My religious and spiritual opinions vary very heavily from most people's. I actually believe in collectivism. Like I believe that I believe that everyone here is God.
Saint
We are
Augustine.
part of the Borg, is what you're saying?
That was what Saint Augustine believed before Saint Monica. His mother told him that he had to swoop up.
I hope she got the stick and beat him out of it.
Of life is the ability to experience individuality, and I think that that's why we live. I think that we're all one part of one giant phalanx, one collective. You know, the whole idea that energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can splinter off, and that's what I think that life is. I think that life is when we splinter off from that big collective and we get to experience individuality, and eventually this will all come full circle, and we'll all eventually one day come together and be part of the same entity. And
at that omega point,
yeah.
Were your parents like into metaphysics as Catholics? Did they go to? So do you know about Teilhard Chardin? Have you heard of Teilhard Chardin at all?
No, but like we were Catholic, and so my grandmother primarily raised me, and she was Lutheran, and I think the Lutherans were way more lax. They were, everybody wanted to continue on with the Irish Catholic traditions. My grandfather couldn't care less about them.
Word.
It was a very strict religion. I got kind of kicked out of the church when I was 8 because, Sundays.
That's too many questions.
It was people that know me know that I love to draw, and I've always had an affinity for stuff like this. And when I was 8, we were asked to draw our depiction of heaven. So I drew myself kicking it with the Ninja Turtles, the X-Men, Transformers.
And they kicked you out of school for that? Are you
No,
kidding? That is heaven right there.
Teacher came behind me, the CCD teacher. She came up, she crumpled up my drawing and said, "There are no weapons in heaven. There's no violence in heaven."
False. I can find like 30 verses in the Bible where there are
Aren't the angels warring up there all the freaking time, dude?
That's what I'm getting to. Is in the classroom was a portrait of Saint Michael slaying Lucifer, and I said, "Well, what about that?" And she busted out the ruler, and I kicked her in the shin, and I fled from that. And then
King.
King. That was a Catholic school?
All right, you just got dubbed the most Teilhardian of Chardins, bro. That's where you're at with me. That's like, and that's a very Catholic accolade.
Did you? Oh, that's Catholic, dude. I got expelled from a Christian school in middle school. I'd gone to Christian school through elementary school and up until that point, but a kid came at me and went to kick me, and I took his. In one solid swoop, I went under his foot with my hand, and I lifted my arm straight up in the air, and he fell straight backwards on the back of his head on concrete. And the principal was like,
"You don't want to mess with."
Look, like this is clearly like a self-defense thing, but he had a concussion, and the parents were so upset that they were like, "We can't have you back next year." So they didn't kick me out on the spot, but I did leave on the spot.
You just gotta teach all the.
Has these cool stories about getting kicked out of religious school. I got kicked out because I was coming back at 2 a.m. every night because I had a girlfriend, and a goddamn rabbi went and found my MySpace.
That's minorly cooler than you realize. If you had a Jewish girlfriend and you sustained it for more than a week, that's actually cooler than you think.
I was about 3 months. It wasn't bad.
3 months is pretty impressive, I'm gonna say.
Like 4 years
with a Jewish girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky, man. Listen. I was a very big troublemaker, and I didn't actually cause trouble, but like, I was a troublemaker back in the day when I was just out of high school. We'll put it that way.
David's record's what? 3 years? What is it?
What's that?
Jewish
girlfriend. I've had plenty of Jewish girlfriends in my life. I had a Jewish girlfriend from Brooklyn, two from Brooklyn.
For how long?
I can't afford one.
How long can you hold it together?
Oh, I love Jewish girls. I mean,
that's a whole different, very
political. How long? Very I don't know if it's a matter of how long I can handle things. I think it's a matter of how long they can handle me.
I said 3 months. That's the longest. Okay, guys.
Look at this beautiful man that you're missing out on. All right,
I'm not as attractive as I used to be. Hence the mask. I'm just
kidding. Have more fun, I think, is the lesson here. Oh man. Okay, Lieb is saying that he might. He's out at the river up in New York. So I think we're gonna miss out.
Down by the river in his band.
Okay. I'll tell him that he can pop in if he feels like it.
By the way, I think 9 years is the answer I'm giving, but that's not how long
that's
I can.
Based. No, that's the way it is. That's alchemically based. Honestly, bro, you just like God tiered. That's like his room of action figures. If you can do that's a Saturnalia and like a bit. I don't know. That's pretty cool. I'm impressed. Okay, we were gonna talk about Lou Pearlman. Does anyone care?
I'm not really sure.
Let me see if I can like make you interested. How about that? Okay, so let's start.
Convince me, bro.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. So like, what are some of your favorite like pop songs when you were young and you loved life? Like you heard some music. Like name a couple pop songs, right?
Well, I grew up in an era
5 years, David Bowie.
And by the way, if you're Jewish, it's only going to enforce this more because you understand pop on a mathematical level that's deeper.
I'm the only Jew you'll ever meet who's shit at math, so I'm not sure if that's
doesn't matter.
True.
No. Like if you had to like cut pizzas that weren't sliced for like 1,000 people,
I'd
you
put
would
them
do
in the
it right.
Stars of David.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of like there's a certain amount of geometry that defeats decitrometry.
Well, when we talk about pop, I mean, what are we talking? Because that's a huge span of
You're right.
stuff.
I mean, let's start.
You're talking about Luke Pearlman, so we're talking about New Kids on the.
We're gonna go even deeper because it's David's here and he knows about ABBA. So we're gonna start with ABBA. And ABBA, before there was Max Martin, there was Dennis Pop. Before there was, it goes Lou Pearlman, Max Martin, Dennis Pop. Dennis Pop during the Eurovision period was a very important music producer. And we also, I'm sorry, should talk about Phil Spector. Phil Spector, who did The Wall of Sound and released a tiger out into Los Angeles to kill people and was ended up arrested eventually after killing a prostitute that one time. Later, and you have no idea how crazy this guy's life is before this happened. All right, but so Dennis Pop lived in Sweden, created a bunch of music, was working with Phil Spector, eventually created a bunch of pop music, Wall of Sound, ABBA for the Eurovision, and then after he died of mysterious circumstances and kind of a weird disease, Max Martin took over for him. Max Martin started working with this guy who was in charge of Intercontinental, I think it was called Intercontinental Aviation. Transcontinental, way cooler. Are you kidding me? Transcontinental.
Right. Blimps.
Dude.
And the blimps failed. So
Wow.
the blimps, and that was a scam. So the guy was a fraudster. So like he would people thought he was like mega rich. They thought he was a billionaire because the way he lived so lavishly. But he would just forge signatures and do crazy stuff to keep it going. But
when he forged signatures, though, it was like Catch Me If You Can. The guy could
Catch Me If You Can
by hand. He could like draw.
Well, he literally said that he had a flight like this Transcontinental Airways, the airline. And he had a little model on his desk, and people thought that because he had the model and a picture on his wall, which it was actually the model held up at an airport, and to the photo taken so you couldn't see the hand on the back of it. So like it was supposed to be like, this is my plane, and I basically lease these planes out to these airlines and whatever, and I make all this money with planes. Like I'm in the airplane business. He had nothing to do with the airplane business. It was all just made up.
Perception is everything in Hollywood.
So yeah, it's that fake it till you make it thing, and that guy was able to do that for years.
I think fake it's wrong though. It's believe it until you achieve it. Like he really did buy blimps, and he really did have at a certain point, because of the perfect counterfeiting, an aviation company. He got millions of dollars, and he was able to invest and buy, machines. And he had blimps going around that were famous, and he was the #1 blimp company in America for a while. People were like McDonald's and Goodyear and all these blimp companies. Whenever you saw a blimp, you saw a Lou Pearlman blimp. Pearlman was the cousin of Art Garfunkel.
They all failed within months, and then he collected insurance on them.
Not all of them. It was like a certain point that he decided he didn't want to do blimps anymore, and he decided that if he failed every one of these blimps, he could collect on insurance.
I don't know, man. I think it may have been all of them. But
when he found out that being in the entertainment industry was the way to go, he was like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride out of carriages into cars. Like he switched his interest.
What are the years for this? Because I think it would help people understand.
So it's after New Kids on the Block. Do you remember when Backstreet Boys came out? Backstreet's Back, all right.
1991, 1993. 1993, he kind of decided, okay, what we're gonna do is we'll build a new Kids on the Block, and we created Backstreet Boys. And Backstreet Boys were really, really successful. Not in the United States. In the United States, no one cared, but in Germany,
I think we cared.
Not until 1997.
Yeah.
For the first 5 or 6 years, Sorry, extra zero. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say it really was 97, 98 because I remember vividly because I was in 8th grade and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Totally, because in
you have no taste, extra zero.
Well,
no taste.
My wife loves the Backstreet Boys, so
a
lot of people love the Backstreet Boys.
Superman has the point though that around the world there was more taste because in Israel and Germany and France, places where Croatia and Eastern Europe, pop music was king. People understood formula.
Well, was it that much different from Jackson 5? Really?
No, because Jackson 5 wasn't popular. What was popular in 1992, 1993 was Nirvana and grunge music and a lot of this discord that was the opposite of pop music.
This was Total Harmony, and that was discord. You're totally right.
Right. Yeah,
I got very lucky because I didn't understand when it comes to music outside of the U.S., it's very slow to catch on.
Right.
So, do you guys remember Panic at the Disco, like their first album?
100%.
So that was a freaking banger, right?
Brendan Urie's a genius. No, but that's not just. But that's not just because of you're behind the times. That's because you're primordially Jewish and you have math in your blood and you can feel the synchronicity of Brendan Urie. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, I'm sure that was it, and that's why I still sing it to this day.
I use Brendan Urie as if I were a math teacher, I would use Panic at the Disco. I chime in with having.
There was one album which was complete
God, no. Honestly, the formula, the rising action. There's no better math lesson probably than a Panic at the Disco album because it teaches you about pathos and suffering and the rise of escalation and the reason why things happen at minor chords so that there can be resolution, there can be resolve, right? It's perfect. It's perfect pop music. Absolutely.
I don't know why everybody's thinking math is in my blood. I'm shit at math. I will say
because you love Panic at the Disco. That was the only reason.
Literally,
I thought that was what they said about Tool fans.
But
Tool's a good example.
My point with Panic at the Disco is when I moved to Israel, which is probably about 2 to 3 years after the original album came out, it was just getting popular over there. So I got a double hit of Panic at the Disco New and then Panic at the Disco New. I was on the bus. They would play it on the radio.
Dude,
and we would
I had the absolute worst of that, which was Gautier, Now I'm Just Somebody That I Used to Know.
That's horrible.
They played as an opening band for the guy. This is the best intro I'll get, clue I'll give you for the guy's band I know, the guy who was molested by Kevin Spacey, and they opened for his band in Los Angeles at some point, and then I went to France and to Europe and then to Australia and to South America, and every country I went to, I traveled for a year and a half because I'd been working for CNN and stuff, and I moved on. Everywhere I went, the song was just becoming popular.
Oh God, that's like hell.
And they would be remixing it. So by the time I got to Argentina, I was like, oh my God, it's a cumbia version now. Ah!
So, I mean, for myself, when it comes to pop music, I didn't stay in that era for a really long time. I ended up going to Flogging Molly, Dropkick Murphy, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, that more alternative rockish kind of stuff.
Yeah, Dropkick Murphys definitely isn't what I'd consider to be pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I stayed in pop for a tiny bit, and then I ended up finding better music.
rock, pop, and disco tend to meet and overlap in certain ways. And if there's different types of bands too. So you'll have a band that has a lot of range, and not all the songs are have the same thing going on. So you can, and then you're looking at the album and you're like, what even is this album? Because some of the songs are like this, and some are and that rock, pop, disco thing, So people would say top of the pops, who are we talking about? You bring up ABBA, and rightfully so, because they came out the gates, as far as the world was concerned, with Waterloo, and Waterloo really has a pop song feel to it. And then people relate to Dancing Queen like this is a disco song, but that doesn't really have the disco
it's really
signature.
It's if you're crying because you've done too much cocaine and no one loves you anymore song.
Right, because the song is about not being able to go back, that you can't go back in time. I mean, that's
I get it. I'm sad now just thinking about it.
Because at one time she was the Dancing Queen, but she's not the dance. She can't. She can look back on her life, and there was this moment, and it was in her not knowing that was the real value, because she wasn't thinking about that this won't last forever. She's just in it, and so, but I don't know.
Anytime I'm in the mood for that kind of thing, I just go back and listen to Tennessee Aaron Ford, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is I want to go back, but he's talking about the pain of life, the suffering, but keep on going, just do your thing. And I find that far more inspirational than people talking about cocaine and shit.
I grew up with my grandfather listening to Gordon Lightfoot. You want some feels in a song, man.
Yeah, word.
Ain't nothing better than Nina Simone's Feeling Good on vinyl.
There's something though about Brendan Urie.
On vinyl, there's nothing better than vinyl anyway.
Brendan Urie though, a coked out Mormon, don't get me wrong, and he's bi-curious and all that, but the music he makes, and
his range is fantastic.
Yeah, there's just everything he does is incredible. I don't care. I'll say it. The music he's making is math. It reminds me of I'm sure the way that Hitler felt about Wagner. I'm sure that I'm Like, there's a problem with what it is pop music, and I'm sorry, but the idea is that you know what's coming. You know what should happen.
How do you think Gandhi felt about Bach?
Probably like
I feel like
Christian.
is it before or after they threw him off the train that you're asking me?
I became more of a Vivaldi guy.
Oh,
Oh,
shout out
God.
to David for rocking that
I know.
RC old school like a real man.
I just
right there.
ordered
wanted-
a pizza and it's what they had.
I wanted to talk about Lemon Popsicle in the canon films. Yeah, it felt like the shout out to the original Virgin Porky's, before American
Ooh,
Pie, Lemon
Porky's.
Popsicle.
If you guys haven't seen Porky's, go watch that classic.
Have you seen Lemon Popsicle? Do you know the original?
No, was it a Lampoon creation?
So before there was any movie about like teenagers in love, there was Lemon Popsicle. Guess what? It's a film about these 2 or 3 or 4 Israeli boys that are trying to like lose their virginity in like 1970.
Oh, I've seen walls like that back home.
Oh yeah, no, this is like
So this is before Porky's?
This is before Porky's, and there's actually a remake of this called The Last American Virgin.
Is this Electric Boogaloo, people?
Yeah, this is Electric Boogaloo.
This is the one where the kids are talking like they're supposed to know, like the way kids talk, but because they're Israeli, they have
let's say
the
you're
filmmakers have no idea how to do the dialogue, so it just
say-
has these like slogans and stuff that don't even exist.
Yeah.
Let's say you didn't-
It attempted to be a John Hughes film, right?
I think that people don't understand, because let's say you didn't have parents to tell you what you weren't allowed to do, and let's say that you were raised on a kibbutz and you were told basically how to like take care of a gun and keep your friends safe. This movie is way more Children of the Corn meets like Kobe's Child Soldier. But
if you want to know how
American
communism
Pie.
works, go check out a kibbutz.
Well,
I don't.
communism's never been tried.
Vouch for it. I do not personally like it, but then again, I did not live on a kibbutz. I only visited.
I honestly say like a kibbutz is way better than communism.
Well, no, because the communism works on a very small scale. So when people go, communism works, it's like, no, it works on a very small scale. But you have to also remember, when people live there, they don't actually really own anything. So you could leave your bike out like right in front of your door, and then the next day it'll be gone. And it'll be at some other neighbor's house, a week later. So just
it's not. But you have to remember, it's not your bike.
But that's also the Israeli thing to do.
It's like burning. It's kind of like Burning Man or anything else. Kibbutzes are cool because you have to imagine if you didn't have a family, and you have a lot of people that came out of the Soviet Union that were worried about ableism. They were trying to stop the family. They were like, we should make the family illegal in the Soviet Union because that's giving certain people ableism. They're giving them better capacity than somebody else. If we were all peasants that all just had the state take care of us, then no one would have an upper hand on anyone else.
My biggest gripe was they can vote to kick you out, like Survivor, and that's kind of where I'm not.
Survivor.
Okay with it.
That's actually the best reference. Survivor is totally based on the kibbutz. That's what Survivor's about.
But that's the thing I very much didn't like, because let's say you lived in the kibbutz your whole life, and then I don't know, one day you do something stupid and they kick you out. What are you gonna do? Like, you have nothing.
Did you read Howard? Did you read Howard Zinn's History of a People? Also, because it's interesting, because like the way that they describe, I'm not saying it's true, but the Arawak and the Native American confederated tribes is that they didn't have prisons, right? The Native Americans didn't build buildings to put you in. What they did was they cut you off from trade, blacklisted you from trading with the Confederation of Tribes, which is kind of a kibbutzism. The idea that you're no longer able to deal with the tribe.
And that's the thing that really bugs me. It's like,
Isn't that better than like putting someone in jail though? What do you think?
Well, why? But that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. Like,
how do you deal with crime? What is your solution for criminals and all that? Then, if you don't,
you mean like crime on a kibbutz?
Yeah, like instead of cutting them off,
public shaming, because you live in a kibbutz and everybody knows who you are and everybody knows what you did.
So what's the solution? You put them in like
you public shame them so they don't do it again.
Actually, that's not dissimilar to the way it was described to me by my cousin in Sweden, how they are like, and this is changing because now it used to be that you had more of a real sense of community, and so you'd be like asking about something, you're like, is that illegal? I mean, weed's illegal all across the board, and you get real jail time for it, or prison time even. But besides that, it's like you're like, is this illegal? And it's like, no, it's frowned upon. And I'm like, what is frowned? Like, he'll say that to a lot of things. Oh yeah, it's frowned upon. Like things that are illegal in the U.S. won't be, won't be illegal. Like it's just that way. And then I was like, what does frowned upon mean? And it's like that in your community, people will literally shun you, or you'll get attitude everywhere you go. You have to now deal with this, and it's like that becomes its own kind of lesser punishment instead of like you got to go, go to court and go to prison. We're gonna arrest you. It's like, yeah, no one's gonna like you, and then you have to live with that, and that sucks.
I mean, think about it. If it's like a real crime, like violence, SA, anything like that, then yeah, use the government system to lock them up.
But they don't have one. A kibbutz doesn't have one, so instead they just
but they still live in the state of Israel, and the laws do apply within the kibbutz as well.
Extra Zero, what do you think? Do you, if you don't have should you? Okay, like imagine you're a tribe, and you got to deal with people that aren't doing things you want them to do. Do you build a jail, or do you forbid them and you shun them and exile them? What do you think?
I kind of look at like the familial approach, right? Because like you can be the head of a household and you can have a kid that does something really bad. Or how do you obviously there's a threshold for that. Like obviously people throughout history have had kids that are irredeemable. So as Rox was saying, is the crime irredeemable? I think, if you're in a small situation, a small society, small slice of it, there are better ways of, managing people. But if it is something like a sexual crime or, something of bodily harm or murder, then yes, then you have to, the crime has to match the punishment.
Let the state take care of it then.
Yeah.
At that point, like have a certain barrier within the kibbutz or something like that, or in your town or something, where it's like, okay, we're going to take this to a higher authority because what you did was so grotesque and so bad that we can't handle the situation here.
So that's the difference between habeas corpus and punitive. So let's say that someone
have it on occasion. I will, just for the creativity. I promise.
Yeah.
If someone like has a traffic violation, right? They don't have the right to a judge in our system because they haven't broken the law. They've only violated some sort of a
you do have the right to a judge. It's just that you run the risk of having to go before a judge versus when you have a traffic violation in the States, typically you pay the fine and now you don't get any points unless you're pulled over. And then at which point you would need to go to the judge and then hope that the officer doesn't show up if you are truly guilty, because then it's their word against you.
Dude.
But it's based basically on if you've caused like damage, if you've hurt something.
Right.
So I feel like there's a difference there between a social issue, which people will often at this point say, we'll redress this grievance with some sort of a fine, and maybe shame can be used in certain circumstances. But exile and keeping someone out of trade, that's essentially what a lot of the internet does. We blacklist you from a social service. We kick you off of Discord. We block you from our Facebook, right? This is kind of the way we do it, is we're no longer going to keep you in our economy.
And at what point does that impede your ability to live? At what point does that impede your ability to sustain yourself?
I mean, you're right, but you're also talking about a different form of governmental society.
Right.
I just cut to David because he's pretty.
Oh, thanks. Can I say something to what we were talking about before when we were talking about pop music? It's more than just pop music, but I realized recently one of the things that I love most about like I look at like the bands that I like the most, and I notice that there's like even though they can be worlds apart, whether I'm talking about Pink Floyd or I'm talking about Tool or I'm talking about like even like old Saul Williams or something, but more than that, it's when the Doors, it's when there's like, it's like they're telling you they know something, and the way that they vocalize it, it's the lyrics and it's the delivery of the lyrics that it gives you time enough to like the way that it's sung to really have room to contemplate what's being pointed at.
There's substance.
And like,
well,
there's
that's the thing
substance
with
to it, but but it's almost like they have this secret. There's a mystical quality to that, and like that's like what like and like even like with ABBA has that too. not all the time necessarily, but there's times where this thing comes through and it's like they know something. It's like there's an esoteric aspect to it because you're like, what do these people know? Like, there's a mystical quality. Like, I love Lana Del Rey. Lana Del Rey does that too, where it's like, or Wise Blood. There's like this kind of like the way that things are articulated and the way that they're enunciated is such that there's an implication that there's something else deeper there, and it kind of drives you when listening to it to go to new places. That's why I can listen to it certain things again and again, like the end, like the Doors, the end, that has such a mystical quality, and it's like his delivery of how he's telling you is like a secret, he's like letting you in on it.
Well,
I mean, that's the thing with music, right? It speaks to all of human experience. As you get older, you can listen to the same song and take away a completely different meaning from the song or feel something completely different. And, the fact that we have music so readily available to us from millions and millions of different people, you're going to connect with one thing or another. And it's going to be like, you know what? I was just in that situation. This song really expresses, how I'm feeling. That's what I like about it, to be honest with you, because it's art that speaks to kind of like your soul and your emotions.
Dude, like Kate Bush.
Yeah. Although, would you say climbing up that hill is about anything other than sex? Really? I don't know. Really?
That's a silly thing to say. Like, what is sex? I don't.
No. I know. It's profound. It's totally profound.
That's
and
like I feel like
it's still about sex.
You sound like the doctor in the Virgin Suicides.
No,
obviously
you're right.
You've never been a 13-year-old girl before. You don't understand.
Yeah. Or American Pie or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I can hear myself, but at the same time, I think that there's something to be said for that.
Like, I could listen to Enigma when I'm 20 and now see it differently as an adult.
No, I mean, like,
shout out to those who got it.
I would push that point further because I sounded weird. Just because if you watch Kate Bush's other videos, like if you watch the cloud busting video with Donald Sutherland, and you see that they're actually working on a Wilhelm Reichian cloud busting machine. I did some videos recently with an Austrian friend of mine, Raphael, in our Europa chat, with this guy who's an engineer in Saudi Arabia, and the German government and Saudi in the Dubai and a bunch of different the Saudi Emirates, they're paying him to make weather machines. So they exist and they make these things, and they actually cause clouds and they have rain. The problem being, I don't know if it's a problem, but the situation, the consequence being, it's affecting apparently the mood of people, and this is all simultaneous with people, hippies worried about 5G.
What song are you talking about from Kate Bush that has the video with the cloud busting? Curiosity.
You know what I'm talking about? The cloud busting one.
It sounds familiar. I feel like I've seen this, but I can't.
I'll just pull it up real fast. It's called cloud busting. Here we go.
The song is called Cloud Busting. Yeah.
Wasn't that the conspiracy around HARP? That HARP was manipulated?
I dream still.
What is that supposed to be? Einstein?
Not. I dream, like Kate.
Yeah,
every time it rains.
I'll tell you what, that Jesse Ventura video where he goes to talk to the people in the neighborhood around HARP and all of that, that's pretty crazy.
I still dream of Organon.
Yeah, what was going on?
I still know that some rain's gonna happen. You know this one? You don't know this one?
Being converted into camps. You remember that?
What is that?
Jesse Ventura's craziest conspiracy theory was when he was talking about how they were planning on turning Walmarts of all places into.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And yeah, it was right in line with what Alex Jones used to say when he'd show you like the lines of the plastic coffins along the side of the road and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because every time it rains,
I love Alex Jones. I just wish he wasn't so bombastic.
What's the point? I mean, okay, hey, let's get into that then. If you're going to talk about Solomon, Goetia, demons. So I have a theory randomly, or if I could get to the Lesser Solomon and Goetia here.
I love being on this podcast just for the mysticism I've never heard before.
So I have a theory that the reason why Alex Jones sounds the way he does is because he has the voice of Astaroth, and that's why, because it makes him have this hoarse kind of voice. right? There's a certain kind. There's always like every time you get a demon, there's a cost. You know what I mean? You played Pokemon or Naruto. You know how it works. Every time you pull out a card, there's an up and there's a down. You know, and so some of
You
these
should have
cards,
asked him about this when you're hanging out with him.
I was too
Oh,
busy.
you got to hang out with him?
Many times. But I have actually a tinfoil hat signed by Alex Jones and
See-
a Back to the Future hat signed by Alex Jones, which I'm pretty happy about. as
So
well.
I don't know if chat would.
I
I got him to admit something pretty crazy though, which
Oh.
was that when we were Extra Zero? What are you saying?
Yeah, I gotta get going.
I love you, Extra Zero. I wanted to really quickly give you a reasonable plug since you took the time to hang out with us. Let me just say, like, figure fiction is super base.
Yeah.
I want to show you guys that you can subscribe right here too. And if you go to Extra Zero on x.com, you can subscribe, and you can also find his link tree here, which will bring you to the Legion of Memers, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we close down the show. But Extra Zero, I'm sorry I didn't give you like a solid. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, no.
Last thing, I gotta show you this because I love you so much and that you're like such an inspiration. Oh, this is the wrong solo. That's ironic. This is my Johnny number 5 action figure.
Oh hell yeah!
And we'll be putting that together pretty soon. And like, if anyone gets to see about it, you will, because you're
Awesome,
special
man.
to me.
Yeah, I've always wanted one of those. Is that the 3D printed kit or is that the injection molded kit? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure, Abe, it's the injection molded one.
Better one.
Yeah, it's the injection molded one. Yep. Cool.
Hell yeah, man. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, just hit me up. I'd be more than glad to come on. Down the road.
We'll do it again soon. I'll talk to you and we'll come up with something that's like you're interested in talking about.
I'll
It's
be
always good to see
in
you.
the studio next time. It's like you hit me up. I was like, oh, are you just?
No, this is great. I'm glad.
Let's talk about Kabbalah and Transformers. That sounds
Yeah,
fun.
like honestly, you've no idea
How
deep we're gonna
does
go.
Kabbalah and Transformers actually the same thing?
Well,
We're gonna set it up now.
If you watch Beast Wars actually has a lot of biblical references to it. That would be an interesting discussion. Especially
Don't break my heart. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Don't break my heart. We're gonna do that. That is, I'm holding you to it. We're doing that.
There's season 3. Megatron actually reads from the Bible, and then also there's some biblical references in the episode Code of Hero where Dinobot realizes that time is he doesn't understand whether time is linear or predetermined. Or actually, let me take it back. He thinks time is linear, but he doesn't know whether it's predetermined. But he realizes that he has to die, and he comes to terms with it in order to.
I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna get meta
Look how
eggs.
excited his face is, guys.
Yeah, we're
Just
gonna
told
do.
him Christmas came early.
Oh, it's happening. That's an
Like,
episode.
the animation is rough, but man, is the voice acting and the story writing so good in it. Yeah, it's definitely one of the. It's probably the best of all the Transformers series in my.
Beast Wars was so cool. I love the cheetah.
Oh, Cheetor. Yeah,
dude.
I've got all 3 varieties of him. I've got his season,
I used to play with the cheetah
and then
Oh
I've
my
when I
got
was
God.
a kid.
season 2 and 3 in here. So
We need to do like a kung fu action sequence where like you have to defeat ninjas to defend your like lair, and keep all the action figures safe simultaneously.
no, basically it's like when you say that, it's funny because like we have a pool out here. So typically when we have family parties, it's just like let's keep the kids out of the basement.
Oh my God, yeah, because there's too many toys in there. There's nothing down there for the kids.
Yeah,
Nothing down there.
Yeah.
No,
Well-
dude, it's the Lego movie, dude. It's you're Will Ferrell in the Lego movie. You're like,
Oh
no,
my
those
God,
are actually
bro.
my toys. You understand? Kids
And
sneaks in there, has a whole adventure.
a lot of that shit's huge too. Like these are all.
They're like child size. Like you could beat that Transformer could beat up a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, we've got arcade machines over here. Just have it. Who doesn't love Turtles in Time, right?
I'm a big fan. Actually, it's one of my favorites. We could do a whole episode on that.
We got Turtles in Time. We got the good old Mortal Kombat 2. We've got Killer Instinct, and then my favorite,
Whoa.
Street Fighter.
Oh God.
Wait, didn't Killer Instinct have something? It was just that kind of game. I thought there was some other special thing with Killer Instinct that was like unusual.
Are you thinking about the vagina in Basic Instinct?
No,
Okay, just because I was.
yeah, that came to your mind.
Killer Instinct was known for the big combo system, and it also, like, it had the violence of Mortal Kombat to a degree. It wasn't as violent. It had like finishing moves and stage fatalities, but it wasn't as
I
violent.
think all it is, I remember sitting in it. Did I sit in that? Was that one of those too?
No, there was never like a seated version of it.
Oh, okay. I could be tripping. I think I'm thinking of something else.
A lot of arcades used to have stools, so that's one of the.
Isn't there an alien in Killer Instinct? You're killing
yeah,
Okay.
He's an ice alien named Glacius.
Okay.
And
it's been a while, man. Jeez.
Yeah, and then there's a werewolf, an alien, a guy that was a mutant that was like basically like Johnny Storm, a cyborg, a boxer, Orchid and Jago, which were two martial arts characters, and then the main bad guy. Oh, there was a skeleton. What was his name? Oh,
He's gonna be on for 30 more minutes telling
dude, I love how you're like, now we're talking about the cool shit that you're into, and you're like, don't get me started.
No, I'm into it though.
Is the skeleton, and then the bad guy was the main bad guy was this two-headed ogre named Idol. And then you want real fun? I've got my in-box Nintendo up there.
Nice.
Have you ever seen Tekkaman Uchu no Kishi? Okay, so like that's my favorite. I have all the original episodes that I had to like get like 10 or 15 years ago from Philippines, from Japan, all like shady. Like the weird Japanese YouTuber that like 60-year-old subscribers of Japan are all like loving. That's my like Anon account of the original series in Japanese. That's my favorite show. I have all of the Uchu no Kishi dolls. I bought them from a clothing store in Japan, in France actually, that had all these like cool action figures. I really love Tekkaman.
Yeah, and those early days of collect, it's like now it's funny. You can anything that you're into, you can get something for it. Those early days, it really felt like you were finding something special because the merch just was so neat that like you had to go into those little media shops, and yeah, and then when you found even something that was like so inconsequential, you were like, best thing ever. I got to get this, just because there was never a guarantee you'd ever see any merch for that thing again. It's like I used to haunt Suncoast Videos because they used to actually have cool shit there, like, when you'd least expect it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's weird, like, but also toys suck, like, a lot of the time. So when you got these, there was, like, a cool, like, the early 21st century is wild. The last 20 years of toys and the technology that went into toys is so good. And, like, it's one of the main reasons I got into 3D printing. I was like, dude, you can have, like, 27 posable points on your action figures and have universal action figures that you 3D print. Like, that's wild.
Dude, like now, like look at this guy's hands.
Oh god, yeah.
Gotta get him here. Like all the fingers are individually articulated. They splay and everything.
I have a 3D printer that we should be using to be making cool things. I don't know. We should probably.
If you guys like this kind of stuff, go follow him on Twitter because he does post pictures of the figurines, we'll call them.
He's a sexy Simpsons character right here that you can find. Extra Zero. Yeah, he's pretty based. He's a hyper based fellow, and apparently he has some Jesuit upbringing, which is also adorable. I like that too. Yeah, he's got opinions and he's got memes and he's also got pretty cool posable action figures, and he knows that Darth Call is based. So yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go down any further than that because that Kenzo video.
I'm pretty sure that my audience would be pretty into the Kenzo video.
Get that curse thing out of here, man! I don't need that bad juju.
Oh man, but yeah,
all right, man.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, just hit me up next time. I'll be in my studio. I was just down here chilling. So,
dude, I'm glad that we got to see. That was really awesome that you shared this with us. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, I'll catch y'all later.
Peace.
See you later, my dude.
Base.
That's now,
pretty sweet. That's pretty
Andreas,
sweet.
Like, if you don't mind me asking, because, like, I like Alex Jones, but I don't like how bombastic he can be. I think
you're just missing the point that he's an angry lesbian.
But what I like is when he does the videos that are, like, super calm, collected, and I'm like, bro, if this Alex Jones was everywhere, I would be freaking out right now.
So what I'm hearing
like
right
when you
now
speak
is
to
that
him,
you wish
is it a normal conversation or is he yelling?
To what time of the day? Like, what are you asking me?
Before
or after coffee?
Yeah, but no, it's not coffee. It's like it's a
I know.
liter
The
of
coffee's
scotch.
code.
It's a
Coffee's
liter of
code.
scotch, and like
Is it good scotch?
it's the best. Well, it's Lafroig, and I think Lafroig is alright.
Okay, I mean it's not.
Dude,
It's
Lafroig is
medium.
amazing, dude.
It's-
It's got that like it's
but
like sausage or something. What is that?
David, Alex
That
has
charcoal.
money.
It's charcoal, George.
It's charcoal?
David. It's charcoal, and I like it. I'm a fan of. I'm a Mormon though, and so if you're what I'm hearing you say is like if Alex Jones was a Mormon, that he would be stable all the time, and that he would be consistent, and that you'd be able to deal with it.
Okay,
And
let me put it this way.
I'm hearing
Unless
you, and
I
there's
can drink with him, I prefer his more calm, cool collective.
well, that's the thing also, because like in the back of my mind there is that sentence like that sentiment. Do not trust someone who doesn't drink, because if they don't trust themselves to drink in front of you, you don't know what they're like
Unless
when
they're
out of
recovering
control.
alcoholic.
Well, here's the thing. I think that demons if you can't control your demon, I think you shouldn't drink in general. I'm a fundamentally like I think more.
I can't afford to drink anymore. I used to drink some very good scotch.
I fundamentally think you should avoid drinking at all costs. But at the same time, people that can't control their demons, it's like when they say that like money corrupts. It's not true. It's that money reveals. When you have somebody who has money, all of a sudden it reveals what they're really like, what they would be like if they were able to be themselves. A lot of people are not able to be themselves and they have these limits because they're terrible and wicked people. I'm pretty sure that's true at this point. There are people that if you gave them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, it would be pretty bad, right? That exists in this world, and probably more than it should, right? And I think that's kind of what people are saying when they say, hey, this person's always in control of themselves, because they don't want anyone to see what they're like when they're out of control, when they're really themselves.
I mean, it depends though.
Depends
If it's
on
a
the case
business,
basis. Did you just say it depends case by case basis?
well, no, I'm saying it depends if it's business or
Oh
if it's.
shit! I thought
If
we
you both said the
thing
same
at
thing,
time.
then that was pretty based. Yeah. I was like,
So
wow,
I mean, you think
wow.
about it, right? There is a side you want people to see when it comes to your professional aspect, and there's a side that
Sure.
it's just you and your friends. So
I guess,
can,
but like to me, that's what Kamala Harris does when she talks. Like it sounds like she's lying to old people. She's like,
Well, I
"Yeah,
don't
I'm being a
think-
really good girl right now." Like it's like I know you don't talk like that to anybody unless you don't respect them or treat them like real people, right?
I don't think it's necessarily lying, but I think it's trying to keep things in the most professional way possible. We actually had this conversation earlier in DMs where I said to you, yeah, I'm probably gonna, smoke a toke, after the show and, relax a little bit. Andreas is like,
He's
"Bro,
talking about PCP, by the way. Just so you guys know.
he's like, man, you can come on my show. I'm like, no, dude. One of the things I don't do is I don't get inebriated on stream, and I don't get stoned before I'm doing a show. It's just
Every time-
Do you do it under like a blanket, like a
no, I do it on my balcony like a grown ass fucking man.
Oh my
I'll just be under here eating my bird dipped in vodka for.
You know what I regret? Like I regret not being able. Let's say you got high, you should be able to get high enough that you can watch The Acolyte and enjoy it.
Bro,
I feel like that's not possible.
There's
anymore.
not enough weed in the world to do that. I have
You know what
gotten
I'm saying?
so glitched that I have seen scratches on the floor, and for some reason, my imagination turned them into Ninja Turtles fighting each other. So
See, that's the
I've been
benchmark.
very, very blitzed, and I
That's the
still don't think
benchmark.
I could watch The Acolyte.
That's the benchmark. If you can't, so to me, like there's something wrong, like on levels that can't be fixed just because of like social control. I don't know, but. What do you think? Okay, I wanted to. What have you been up to though? I want to look at the Legion of Meme. Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
it's
Legion of
time.
Memers, please check out the YouTube channel. Go check out the Twitter and everything. Right now, we're in a period of growth, so we're figuring out what we're going to do. We did not have a show last week because I had to work overtime, so it's a bit hard. But I try and do a show every week. Why don't you go to the newest episode if you can?
Oh, this is not. Hold on a second.
No.
This is.
If you go to like the home page.
They tricked me. Hold on a second. Legion of Memers YouTube page. Go back to videos, or do I go to lives?
Live.
That would be the obvious choice.
Yeah,
Andreas.
and we last time we had a show, which is about 2 weeks ago, we had Ivan Ortega on, and he is a killer editor. He was showing examples of how music can change a scene altogether. and he kind of re-edited the Acolyte into a more profitable, a more comprehensive kind of
More
video.
digestible,
Exactly.
you know,
It was very good. You know, if you
more
guys are interested,
palatable. Yeah.
if you guys are interested in editing it, he brought up his timeline, walked us through it. It was pretty great. So go check out the channel. Hopefully, we'll have a lot more stuff coming in down the line. But right now, I am actually working on some collaborative projects that
I have ADHD, so I'm just gonna do this for a second. I'm really sorry. You're gonna have to remember that you have collaborative projects, and you're gonna have to continue on from your plug. 1 second. So if you ever watch that movie Escape from Witch Mountain, there's this amazing movie where these kids are like witches.
Where's the Rock?
Oh, they get kidnapped in this movie, and they're driving around, and there's like flying vans, and like this like Aleister Crowley dude who gets saved by the psychic kids and all.
It's
this
Donald Pleasance.
It's freaking nuts. Okay, the thing about this movie is like watch it with like not the music on, because the music is like la 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 la. It's like this happy little adorable music that makes it belies what's going on, which is this horrifying movie, right? And it's amazing because a lot of time you'll use music to make a scene more intense. Because you're like, well, this scene's not that intense, so we'll make.
You should watch this with Godspeed, You Black Emperor. That's
yeah,
right.
we should. We're going to talk about that in a second, but in a minute. But here's the thing: this basically what they did is the opposite. Rather than make a soundtrack to make the movie more intense, they're like, "Well, kids are going to be watching this, so what we got to do is make a soundtrack that makes it less intense." So they numb the intensity. Like if you think about this. There's a guy chasing down Aleister Crowley who's kidnapping kids so he can sacrifice them, and they're aliens, right? Like, there's nothing more intense than this is the craziest possible movie. But they're playing Anton LaVey Carnival music. Okay,
dude,
sorry.
you know the significance of Donald Pleasance. I mean,
he was like, what the fuck?
Dude, like that guy, like I can say a million things about that guy actually, but like THX 1138, I think is, you know, but he's in so many movies. But he had that Beatles connection where he's actually in one of the Beatles collages in one of their album foldouts.
Randomly, I just watched the movie Help, right? Which I forget if it's not him, but it looks like him, the bald guy in Help, right? It looks very similar.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did an album with I think it was him and Paul McCartney did an album about a little mouse that stuck out in the snow on Christmas. And like so you know, when John Lennon made the statement about, you know, Christianity will eventually fall away and rock and roll will outlive it or whatever he said, and then he was asked about that by a journalist, and he told them that the explanation for why he said the statement is that he had recently been heavily influenced by a book called The Passover Plot. And so The Passover Plot is a book about basically Jesus taking a drug that makes his heart stop for a period, and that you be basically dead for 3 days and then come back. And so that's the premise of the book, is about faking one's own death, which is kind of interesting in regards to Lennon. Like, but the movie that was like a Zalman King movie, like the guy who did like Skinamax, like Red Shoe Diaries or whatever, he did the movie of The Passover Plot, and it stars, I believe it stars Donald Pleasance, or he plays a key part in that. But I thought that was interesting because he's already got this Beatles connection, and then he's doing like the you know, bringing the book to life in this like really low budget movie. I sometimes like pay attention to like the stuff that's not like, it doesn't matter like, was it a big movie? Like, you know, it's just sometimes the best sync connectors are like these lesser knowns. That's one of them. But yeah, he's a weirdo, man.
Andreas, you're still on mute.
That's the best. Let me pull up David's links as well. Guys, go to the syncbook.com, and you go to the syncbook, you go to the videos, you can click on Synchromysticism, click on Syncflix right here, and Syncflix will take you. You can also, if you haven't seen this, by the way, Superman, please watch Back to the Future Predicts 9/11. Because, like, it's really important. Like, you got to know that 9/11 is all about Back to the Future. You can see that that's 9/11 upside down, the Twin Pines Malls, the Twin Towers. Please watch this.
Actually, you know what, David? Maybe you and I should set something up separately. And I get blitzed and you walk me through it.
That would be brilliant. I would tune in for that. If that were the case, also
Rumble
like
only because YouTube's a bitch.
if you get tublets, watch Sorry Cassandra because that's the heavy dose. But yeah, if you also get the chance, go to MK Ultra 723 on X.com because if you click on highlights, you can find David Charles Plate's Synchromystic work. There's a lot of them. He's got all kinds of movies synchronized with music. He's got this is Lana Del Rey's album Honeymoon with Polanski's film Bitter Moon, right? And that's kind of a taste of what you'll see. There's a lot of different kinds of amazing synchronicities, all explained why they sync and, you know, what's the reason why it would make sense for this soundtrack to go with that movie. And like I said, there are movies where you can think of the intensity of a soundtrack where you're like, wow, this scene's not that exciting, but the music makes it more exciting. But the opposite, where they're like, wow, this scene is really crazy and traumatic, but the music makes it okay. We don't even care. We don't even mind it because the music is so calm, right? Replace that with a different soundtrack, and all of a sudden you see this is what's really going on in the movie. So that's a reason why I would recommend checking out David Charles Plate's Synchronicities. Here's Jodorowsky's Santa Sangre paired with The Doors' Strange Days. I think that one.
And if any of you are going to be watching it, make sure to put your comments and your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree, inside the replies of the post. So David can see them and, you know, interact with you. Because I think, David, is that something you want people to do?
Sure. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I'm always interested in it. If you know, I would say if you go through the collection, if there's something that if you know the album and you know the film, that's kind of ideal because, you know, just being able to be familiar enough with lyrics and applicability and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, it does something. Like if you watch like Fight Club with like Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell Part 1 and 2. Like it's awesome. It's good to be familiar with the album and maybe even read the book Fight Club as well as seen the movie. You know what I mean? Because it's just like there's things from the book that you might see referenced in the film, like that, like the film on its own wouldn't necessarily indicate. So yeah, fills in the blanks or something like that. But yeah, if you're familiar with the components, that's the best way to do it.
And David, do you do any other shows like live streams or a guest appearance or anything like that?
I do Think Tank tomorrow night.
Okay, right, if you guys are watching that show and you want to make memes, make sure to hashtag Legion Memers at Legion of Memers and make sure to at David on there because I'll see it, I'll reshare it, and it's good for the shows and hopefully gives you guys a bit of experience with the memes. Have fun with it. Show the shows you appreciate them, that you appreciate them, because we can't all afford super chats, but we can create things for our favorite creators.
Hey, Sam the Newsman says, I need David to do a sync of Deadpool and Wolverine and a soundtrack, Pure Gold. So this is something that I've had on my mind ever since I walked out of the theater not that long ago.
No spoilers, please.
No, hold on. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. But Deadpool and Wolverine I have a sync with the Deadpool 1 and 2 at the same time with Eminem's album Kamikaze. And so I was like, Eminem just happened to come out with a new album, and I'm looking at the new Deadpool, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna play around with that? And yeah, and then it's just they're like simultaneous, like they released the album when the movie came out. So yeah, that's where that's going. But anyway, there you go.
Epic. Sam. I feel really good hearing Superman like plug stuff. It reminds me of like selling watches to like 80-year-old people on infomercials. It just feels right. You know what I mean?
All right, I gotta get better at this shit. I know.
No, I'm kidding. That weirdly enough to me is a compliment. I just felt like we're doing something.
Oh, all right, cool. You know, when the Legion gets some money,
if I do it, I feel like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems if I do it.
Yeah. Right. All right. Here's a little death metal. Love you all. Good night. God bless you.
Thank you for watching. Like, button, share with friends.